today we are joined by the legend that is Akala. It's a pleasure to meet you, bro.
Yes, brother.
Like from the heart, bro.
Blessings.
Like I was saying to you off mic, like I've grown up and you have been a big part of our culture, a big part of our community. So it's nice to just be here in the studio with you and have you on the breakfast show. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, really good, bro. Really good. Can't complain at all. It's been a long time since I've been in a live studio like this.
Well, COVID, lockdown.
Indeed.
It's kept us all apart,
Yes,
innit?
indeed, yeah.
I saw you down at the Harder They Fall premiere, though. You showed up for that one. How was that? How was that?
Great. It was great. Congratulations to James Samuel and everyone involved. I think the film's going to do really, really well. So, yes, it was beautiful to see that cast of characters come together and obviously introduce us, even though it's not based on the biography of those individual characters. Those were all based on real black cowboys that existed in that period. And so it's more than just the historical information that the film brings. It's just a great film. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's received at cinema.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it as well. 'Cause I didn't manage to make it down, but that was going to be my next question. Like, how important do you feel films like that are in the culture and the community at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, look, representation has its limits, but it's massively important. Because you can't be what you can't see, and obviously, most people get their image of the past not from history books, not even from what they learn at school, but actually from historical fiction. Our imagination about, say, the medieval era comes as much from Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings as from anything else.
Of course.
And so if we're in a world where imagining certain ethnic groups didn't exist back then because we're not seeing it, you often see this a lot when people do a multi-ethnic cast of like a period drama, and you get all these people from the Daily Mail moaning that they're being politically correct. And then the people say, well, here's the references. Like, I know you want to believe London looked a certain way 200 years ago. That actually isn't the facts. I've just written a novel, in fact, based in Elizabethan London, based on the actual facts of the time. It was already an immigrant city. There was already a black population there. Shakespeare does have 15 sonnets to his black mistress, as much as some people may find that distressing for reasons best known to themselves. Those are the historical facts. And so what's often, dismissed as sort of virtue signaling when people have a sort of multi-ethnic casts often turns out to simply be fascinating historical facts that often people don't imagine to exist because the world has been presented to them in one way and from one set of eyes often. Yeah, well, you touched on the book just briefly there, and that was going to be something that I asked you about. The Dark Lady, that was released earlier on this year, right? You know what? It's all such a blur. I can't remember. It was earlier on this year or earlier on last year.
I hear you, though. I hear you, yeah.
Earlier on this year.
Everything's just
the way it was meant to be released last year.
Right.
And for obvious reasons wasn't. So it was earlier this year. It was in April.
How was the reception? Was it how you imagined? Because I know when these things sort of build up and they come around, you have a perception of how it's going to go. And, as a professional and coming from the same sort of industry, we all put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So was it what you kind of hoped for, and how was the reception?
It was really good. I mean, it was in the bestsellers list. It's doing well. Everyone that's read it has said nice things, pretty much. It's my first novel, so obviously writing your first novel is a challenge. On a technical level, but I'm really pleased with the result, and people seem to have enjoyed the read, and that's all you really can ask for. Yeah, amazing. Congratulations, and I just feel like it's important as well to just have more black lead characters, especially in books as well, because you've got teenagers, you've got young people reading stuff like that, and then it's an inspiration. It's something for people to kind of look forward to, right, and look ahead to. Oh no, 100%. Yeah, it's very, very important. Like I said, the representation of perspectives is really important, and it's not just important for black children. The thing is, it's important for everybody. Yeah. If we live in a world that is changing very, very rapidly, in which the economies of China and India and loads of other places around the world are growing massively, and that is going to have an impact on the necessity of cultural literacy into the future. Yeah. And people have, grown up on a very sort of Eurocentric and distorted view of the world for a very, very long time. And lots of people are opening up into this whole new world and realizing, wow, there's all this stuff I didn't know. Some people open up and being quite bitter about learning about other things. But it's good for everybody to see more perspectives other than our own. Yeah. I knew when you come in today I was going to leave with knowledge. That was one thing that I could guarantee. It's been 10 minutes and already I'm full of it. And this time of year, I want to get into this because at this time of year there's always a debate. And a lot of people question whether we should have a Black History Month or it's something that we should really celebrate all year. And there are many, many things that people just don't know. And so this month is a great chance for everybody to learn quite specifically about the achievements and contributions of black people to the human story. The history of Africa and its diaspora has been specifically distorted as a means of justifying colonialism and slavery in such ways that many, many people, including black people, are completely shocked when I say that there are 750,000 handwritten manuscripts surviving from medieval West Africa because they've been taught to believe that Africans didn't read or write until Europeans showed up. Most of humanity was illiterate till the beginning of the 20th century, but there were specific parts of Africa where literacy was widespread, namely Islamic Africa, Ethiopia, and Sudan. That doesn't negate anyone else's achievements because we all know there's a history of wondrous civilization in India and in China and in Korea and Japan and even the Middle East, as much as Muslims are demonized in many ways today. Most people are quite aware that the Middle East has a pretty impressive history of civilizational achievement. It's only for Africa and its diaspora that is unknown. Most people are unaware, for example, I'll give one last example, that black Americans made the fastest transition to literacy of probably any group of human beings in the world. At the turn of the 20th century, so one generation out of slavery, the average black person in the United States was as likely to be literate as the average person in Spain. Think about Spain's history and black Americans' history. Now, if people feel uncomfortable just for 1 month of the year focusing on black people's achievements, yet we've got a long history even in cinema and media and so on. We've had until recently a black-on-black violence department in England. You know, focusing on specifically black negativity, we have to wonder why when this month comes along and we're focusing on specifically positive contributions of black people, it makes some people uncomfortable. We don't focus on all of Black History Month on white people's racism. That's not even what we talk about for most of the month. It's mostly about, hey, did you know this fascinating, or should be, did you know this fascinating thing that black people have done that you probably didn't know? And so I find that this kind of stuff really, really a bit silly.
Yeah.
And a bit, like I said, we don't do it with any other cultural festival.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, and I agree with that. I think the angle that he was trying to come across was we're when it's Black History Month, we're kind of segregating only 1 month to black people or to our culture when we should be celebrating it the whole year round.
Yeah, I get that, but what happens often is if you don't, this is the reason why you have cultural festivals is to focus you. Because if you do that, you don't have this particular period to focus. And when I go around, I can tell you, the last 15 years that I've been going to schools, when I used to go to schools, it was all slavery and Martin Luther King still.
Yeah.
Now, in that 15 years, the change I've seen, where it's now Benin bronzes, it's now Timbuktu, people now get, and you've got a new generation of young people, including young people and not black, growing up, actually knowing something about African history and culture. Isn't that beautiful and wonderful?
Yeah.
And it isn't actually mostly about, look at this horrible thing white people did to black people. That isn't what Black History Month was about. In fact, the whole reason Carter G. Woodson, if people know the genesis, set up was precisely so that we didn't reduce black people's history to a footnote of resisting racism and slavery. Actually, there's these thousands of years. The oldest astronomical observatory in the world is in what is now Sudan. That kind of stuff is what we mean when we say black history. As well as even oppression within Africa itself, right? It's not like we're saying medieval African kingdoms were all paragons of morality. Everyone was having a great time. There was no oppression of poor people. We can get into that too. It's just celebrating the fullness of black people's humanity, which has often been diluted or presented in one-dimensional ways. And I think it's a great time to focus on that, just as I believe those other cultural festivals that I named are relevant for what they are.
Jay London here for your breakfast show. It is Black History Month. So, of course, I've been asking all the guests, everyone that comes in, about some of their musical inspiration, some of the songs, some of the tracks, some of the things that have influenced people. And, yeah, I want to know yours because, obviously, as an artist yourself and from a person who comes from that culture, I can imagine what your household was like. Like, I can imagine mum and dad was just playing all the bashment, all the dancehall, all the lovers rock, all of those vibes in the kitchen.
It was more 70s reggae.
Right.
70s reggae and soul were the dominant sounds in my household. And so even though my mum and dad weren't living together, when I went both to stay with my dad and in my mum's, it was really, they were 70s children and hardcore reggae heads. So it was mainly Dennis Brown, Reggae Isaacs, Bob, obviously, Alton Ellis, the whole plethora of that era, that golden age of reggae music. And even some of the 80s stuff. I mean, Garnet Silk for me is he would probably be my third favourite Jamaican singer of all time after Bob and Dennis. And someone who probably people outside the Jamaican diaspora don't know that well. Or Beres. Big Uncle Beres Hammond, you know what I mean? There's some Jamaicans who produce some singers, you know. I was about to cuss two bad words still, but people don't realise the plethora. Like, people know Bob and they don't realise that's just, listen, not just, Bob is the greatest, but he's an intro to a whole world of music. So 70s reggae was the main thing I grew up on. And then, obviously, myself, the music I chose for myself growing up was 90s rap music. Okay. I'm a 90s baby. Yeah. And you know, Wu-Tang, Nas, Pac, etc. Yeah. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff was the dominant music of my youth. As much as I love jungle and garage,
Yeah.
it was hip hop for me.
So are those kind of the people that you say inspired you as an artist? Because for me, Nas has always been the guy. Like, he's the greatest rapper alive in my opinion. But is there anyone that really stood out for you when you was kind of getting into your career, or even maybe still do now?
I would say for me, as a solo artist, Nas and Pac would be, and DMX actually.
Of course, yeah.
To DMX.
R.I.P. to DMX.
Would be three people that were huge influences on me. Group wise, it would be Wu-Tang. But actually, Bounty Killer. You know, growing up on as much on dancehall as American rap music, for me, Bounty was probably as big an influence on me as Nas. If you think of all those political songs he made in the 90s, Anytime, Look, Poor People Fed Up, etc., in terms of orientating a young man towards political consciousness from a man that you could admire, you know, he's a bad man from the ghetto, but boy, you know, he still made you think. He made a song called
He made it cool, yeah.
He made it cool to be smart. He literally made a song called Book. And then, you know, 4 minutes later, would say something, you know,
that we can't say on the breakfast show.
And so that contradiction is a contradiction Wu-Tang also and Pac presented. You know, the sort of hood tough guy thing. But yo, I'm going to use this kind of Shakespearean English. I'm going to say becometh in a rap song and that sort of stuff. And that's why I love the Wu too. They made it cool to be smart, which for a nerd like me growing up was wonderful.
I can just imagine you clashing with your sister as well. Like, I don't know if that ever happened, but I've just got this vision of you and Ms Dynamite just in the kitchen around Christmas or something, just having like a sound clash around the pot.
That sort of did happen, but basically what really happened was, so when it was my mum's birthday, we used to put on like talent shows in the back garden.
Right. See, I knew there was something.
On top of this all, we grew up in a theatre. So my stepdad was the stage manager of Hackney Empire.
Right.
So we were on stage, dancing, singing, whatever else. I did the lights for the Russian circus, all kind of stuff. We were around, you know, all the Real McCoy, that whole
of
show.
Course.
All the comedians from that came up through the Hackney Empire.
Right.
So we knew all of them growing up, all that sort of stuff. Culturally, even though, you know, we didn't have any money, but culturally we had an incredibly rich upbringing. And so, yeah, we used to do our little clashes in the garden, write songs together and all that sort of stuff. And my dad had a sound system, his own sound system. And so we used to MC at his sound system, but it weren't no joke thing. Like, he booked Skibbity and Det and Brocky and all those legends. So we'd be like the warm-up for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we was on stuff from early.
God, that's amazing, man. Your house must have been a vibe. Like Skibbity in the back garden.
No. So my dad had an actual sound system, like as in, when I say an actual sound system, he used to like do events.
Right.
So they didn't come to the yard.
Okay.
He would book them at a club or wherever else.
Right.
And then we'd go out 12, 13 years old. I mean, obviously we weren't supposed to do that. But never mind.
No, we'll push that to the side.
100%. And then we'd be like the warm up.
Oh, amazing. And what about like current artists and things like that? Because obviously there's a lot of people doing a lot in the scene right now. There's so many artists. I mean, we can say here and reel them all off. We're playing all of them on Capital XTRA. Are there any young men or women at the moment that you're kind of looking at saying these guys are representing for the scene, man?
Yeah, 100%. I love what Sims is doing. I love what Gets has done this year. It's been amazing.
Yes.
I loved Michael Kiwanuka's last record. I mean, there's a plethora of Black British cultural representation now in a way that there wasn't before. Do you know what I mean? Even if you look just within rap music, the broadness of the genre now, there's really just such a range of stuff to engage with. But those are three that immediately came to mind. Obviously, you got the Daves and the Stormzy.
Yeah, there's so many.
And you know the icons and the people that people know up there. Obviously, I loved Kane's last record but yeah, I think in this last year, those three have really stood out to me. Sims and Michael Kiwanuka.
Yeah, Sims is killing it as well. That last album.
Yeah, man, Shabad.
Big. All right, well, listen, best of luck. Akala, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's get some more tunes on. You're with Jay London right now. It's Capital XTRA Breakfast.